Hello everyone, welcome to Self-Knowledge. Today we're having lecture number 42 of this set of 50 lectures that are part of the phase A of this self-knowledge course that we broadcast every Sunday through this page. I remind you that these lectures have the purpose of giving us the necessary tools so that we can achieve the self-knowledge, so that we can awaken the 100% of our consciousness and we can achieve the self-realization of our being. So today we are going to talk of a very important topic. We are going to talk about the two types of knowledge that exist. One is the objective knowledge and the other one is the subjective knowledge. So in this lecture we are going to learn to differentiate what is an objective knowledge, what is a subjective knowledge. We are going also to understand which of this is useful for us and serves us for our inner progress and which one does not. Also, we are going to learn about the, just a second, let me open something here. We are going to understand what are the negative consequences that the accumulation of subjective knowledge, and we are going to learn today what is the subjective knowledge, what are the negative consequences that it brings us to the development of our consciousness. So let's start this lecture, give me just a second, by reflecting on this. We, all human beings, live at the same time in two different worlds at the same time. One is the interior world and the other one is the exterior world. So it is important to understand that we are so fascinated with the exterior world, with all the things that we can perceive with our five senses, with our sight, with our the things that we can smell, the thing that we can just experience externally, like with people or animals or houses or cars or money or cell phones or prestige, luxuries, etc. We are so fascinated with this external world that we don't give importance to our interior world. And for that reason, we have been losing the ability to perceive the reality of our interior world as we continue to form and to strengthen our personality. But it happens that all those things that comprises the exterior world, all those things that we know externally, are of a temporary nature. Everything that we perceive in this third dimension, in this physical world, is going to be at some point swallowed by time. It is only to see in those places where there are ruins of past civilizations to realize that everything passes. People pass away, buildings, all types of constructions, even the continents. You can see also the animals become extinct. Absolutely everything that belongs to the physical world passes at some point. Time swallows it. On the other hand, the interior world, that reality that exists within each one of us and that resides in our spirit, in our consciousness, that is eternal. That has always existed and always will exist. And as we saw at the beginning of this course, when we, in the lecture number 2, we analyzed the topic of what death is and what dies and what doesn't die at the time of the death of the physical body, we there saw that the 3% of our consciousness never dies. It goes from one existence to another. And even after the second death, what is our essence, that is that 3% of free and uncatchable essence that we all have, and the 97% of essence that is currently trapped within our ego, that 97% doesn't die either. The ego, the one that is trapping, conditioning, that 97% of our essence, at some point is going to die. If we decide to eliminate our ego voluntarily by doing the psychological work that we are teaching in this course, the ego is going to die and we are going to rescue that 97% of our essence. But if we don't do that job, what is going to happen is that we are going to pass through the process of involution, what is called also as a second death, and there the ego is gonna die, but the essence, that 97% of essence, is going to continue to exist, because what is the essence? The essence is the real. It's the immortal part in each one of us. Instead, when the physical body dies, also the vital body dies, and the personality start to disintegrate, and at some point the personality also disintegrates completely. But it's precisely that that is our personality, that we call our way of being, that energetical vehicle that we all create in each existence. We create a whole new personality formed by my name, my likes and dislikes. It is formed through imitation, what we see others doing. And that personality is what leads us to become fascinated with the physical world, with the material things. And since we have been growing up, we see how everybody is in an incessant run to achieve comfort, prestige, money, fame, pleasure, recognition, and we, as imitators, we embark on that same race that makes us more and more materialistic, and that stunts our ability to develop spiritually. So when studying our personality, we are going to find that this is governed by the social codes, by the social norms, what is allowed and what is not allowed in society. But if we analyze this, we see that these social norms, from one moment to the next, they become just obsolete. What a few years ago was cause for scandal, such as a woman wearing miniskirts, a few years later, it is the most common thing. So, from a young age, we begin to and that depending on the culture, and that depending on the family in which we were born, we begin to be or start to be inculcated in us some social and moral concepts and certain religion to believe in. And these things that begin to be inculcated in us start like shaping our personality, our way of acting, our way of thinking, our way of reacting to the different circumstances in life. But we don't react or think in a conscious way, in a reflexive way, but in that rigid way, according to what we have learned that is correct or not, through the things that we've been or that have been inculcated in us. But we don't develop our consciousness, so we never reflect what is conscious in certain circumstances. So, and in addition to this, we also begin to receive what is known as a formal education. We start, from kindergarten, elementary, high school, university, then specializations like master degrees, etc. And we are all our lives accumulating an endless number of information that, for the most part, we remember nor are really useful to us. And with this, we are developing more and more that personality, and we are at the same time distancing ourselves more and more from our spirit, from our consciousness. That is in us what is real, and what is in us what has the eternal and the real knowledge. So, in the exterior world, what we receive the most is subjective knowledge that is based in intellectualization and in beliefs. It is not an objective knowledge. It is a subjective knowledge. And this knowledge is received by the personality, and the results of accumulating lots of subjective knowledge is the atrophy and the alienation of our consciousness, because this objective knowledge mechanizes. It actually turns us into just theorization. It atrophies our intellectual center. And you see that we go to school and they just give us like pre-digested concepts that other people emitted and that captured in books, and what we have to do to pass the grade, to receive awards, is simply to learn that and as accurately as possible to repeat all these concepts. That is, without even understanding them, without having verified them, or without knowing many times if that is even true. Also, they instill us in our family most of the time a religion, and we are fine with the family and with the people at church if we take the religious book and the criteria that is issued there, and we believe them and we repeat them as accurately as possible. There we are fine. But as you can see, none of this seeks that we experience for ourselves, that we investigate, and that we get to know directly the reality of that. It doesn't seek that we reflect and that we arrive at our own knowledge. We just become machines that receive information and that process all that borrowed information. If we reflect and we think on the great ancient philosophers, doctors, inventors, and even the ancient physicists, we will realize that they didn't go to universities to fill themselves with alien concepts. But instead, ancient schools and universities were dedicated for people to search for themselves, to directly observing phenomena and understanding them, and to also investigate in their inner world the reality of the existing things. But as society become more and more materialistic and worship the personality, they just lose interest in reflecting and investigating internally. And we just settle for assimilating the concepts, be them erroneous or not, that others establish. So we are fine just with believing, and therefore we never come to true knowledge, to our own knowledge. And happens that the word knowledge itself comes from knowing, which tells us that it's something that has to be done personally. And most of us, in the process of intellectualization, we believed that learning mechanically or memorizing was enough. And we became just believers of everything that we have been told. But we don't really know those things, and we don't really know any of those things that we supposedly know, because we missed the most important part of knowing, which is checking, which is verifying for ourselves. And that is why it is really important to reflect in the temporary nature of all the external knowledge. That is important. And to know how many things that we were taught years ago were just modified. And you can see that at one time it was firmly believed that the earth was flat and that the earth was the center of the universe, and even those who dared to say otherwise were accused of being heretics and most of the time killed. And over time, this changed, and it began to be taught that the Earth was a sphere and that the planets of the solar system revolve around the sun, not around the Earth. But what happens? That recently some people and groups have wanted to reintroduce the idea that the Earth is flat. And let's say that this criteria is normalized again with, I don't know, tests and concepts and theories, whatever. We would have no choice but to defend what we believe and to reject what we don't believe. But it's precisely from there that we have to come out of believing or not believing. And for this, we must begin to understand that we must stop the accumulation of subjective knowledge. Stop introducing so many concepts, so many theories, so many speculations, and start looking for the objective knowledge that we will only find through the direct experimentation in our inner world. For example, in this case of the flat earth or the round earth or the sphere, whatever, if we unfold to the astral, or we astrally unfold, and we just start going up and up and up, and we get out of the planet, and we from there look down, and we see the planet, and we see its real form. There you can actually know by yourself what is the truth, if it is flat, if it is sphere, if it is round. There you have an objective knowledge, something that you just investigate for yourself. And this is not something like, I don't know, something like, wow, it's impossible. No, something very simple. That way you are making your own effort to investigate. And now it doesn't matter what theories exist or what other people say or what is established as the real thing. You have your own knowledge, which is an objective knowledge. That way you are getting out of just the belief or believing or not believing, because you already have experienced what is the real thing. Now, the interior world is different, and in there we find two kinds of reality. As we have been talking through the different lectures, our consciousness is made up of 3% of free and conscious essence, which is our consciousness, the conscious essence, and of 97% of essence that is trapped in our psychological selves. But it is that 100% of essence, the free part, the 3%, and the essence that is currently residing within our psychological defects, what makes up our being. That essence is actually our particular God. What is real, what is true, what is eternal, what is beautiful, what doesn't pass away in each one of us. So each spark of consciousness that is trapped in each of our psychological defects is there taking a course, is there taking like a master, making a master's degree, acquiring experience and wisdom. Since we created those defects from a lot of existence ago, to when we receive the knowledge to awaken, we can start working on ourselves and we can set them free. And when we eliminate our psychological defects from ourselves, which is what we are not, because that is what is the ego, what we are not. In this way, we are getting to know ourselves because we are rescuing from the elimination of that concept, which is the ego. We are rescuing what is real, what is our wisdom, what is our virtue. So we are becoming wise and virtuous. And as our consciousness is asleep, we don't even know that we came to this world with a purpose, and that this purpose is to get to know ourselves, to know our particular God. we just become fascinated in the world, and we begin to worship that golden calf that is the personality and all its pleasures, and we begin to do everything that we were told that was necessary to do to be great and to be important. But when we realize that nothing that we achieve in this world is really going to satisfy us, and that sooner or later all of that passes, we arrive at that critical point when our consciousness tells us that there is something more, that we must search for something more, that there is a purpose for existence, that there is a higher knowledge that we will only get when we start to really know ourselves. But to know ourselves, to be able to know our interior world, the first thing that we must do is to start to self-observe ourselves, since that sense is atrophied in most human beings, the sense of the self-observation. So that is the first step. If we want to release the 97% of our essence, the first step will be to practice the self-observation. And what is the self-observation? Is to start making the constant effort to stay at all times in that necessary self-awareness state by looking at ourselves. That is self-observation. Make the greatest effort for not to lose ourselves in the things that we are doing, or in the things that we are seeing or experiencing. Not to lose ourselves on those things, but to start doing things in a concentrated way, in a conscious way, always aware of our existence, keeping at all times the attention, observing what we are thinking, what we are feeling, what we are desiring, and so on, what is happening within us. That is the important thing. And that way, we will be able to, at all times, recognize the constant egoic manifestations that are going to be taking part, that all times are taking part in our mind, in our emotion, through our verb, through our actions, in our sex, etc. So what we must do, we must start filtering what we are, for example, thinking, to recognize what psychological defects, or what is the psychological defect that at this precise moment is thinking, is using my mind to think. It can be anger, if I'm having, I don't know, resentful thoughts, or if I'm having, I don't know, if I'm impatient and I'm thinking with that, anger, or if it is the envy, or if it is the criticism, who is using my mind to talk about how that guy looks, or how that girl looks, or criticism, or if it's greed, if I'm all the time thinking about making money, or having things, or worrying about the money, if what is using my mind is the fear of, it is using my emotion, I must observe myself to discover who is feeling inside of me. If it's the sadness, if it's the fear, I don't know, if it's worry, or if it is whatever. So we are also going to start filtering our emotions to discover who is manifesting there. And at the same time, our whole body. Because the psychological defects also manifest as sensations and as tensions in our body. So we must, if we are actually in self-observation, we can discover that at some time we are so tense here in the shoulders, and we can, by reflecting, what is it, judging that, because that is the second point. Okay, I observe that is an egoic manifestation. Okay, I'm going to judge that. Who is the defect that is manifesting? And I see that is actually the worry, or that is actually the impatient, or that is actually the loss that is making me feel all these sensations in, like, say, my sexual organ, etc. And once I judge the defect and I comprehend it is the defect, the next step is the elimination. So every manifestation that we judge will let us comprehend if it is a manifestation from our consciousness or if it is a defect that is coming to steal our energy and to make us commit mistakes. And if we comprehend that it is a defect, we must deny to feed it, and immediately we must ask our Divine Mother for its disintegration. So we ask internally in our mind, Divine Mother, eliminate this defect, eliminate this sensation, this emotion, this defect that is thinking this thing, etc. And but also we must start working in our ego through the reflective meditation that we learned in lecture number 22, by bringing to our mind in meditation the scenes in which certain defects manifest, let's say, in a strong way. Let's say that we want to work on our lust, and we want to achieve chastity, and we want to get rid of, let's say, the masturbation or the pornography or the I don't know, pedophilia, whatever is our case. We want to get out from it. What we must do, we must bring those sins where the defects manifest in a strong way in the reflective meditation, and we are going to, in that scene that we are remembering, we're going to let's say observe and recognize all the details of the defects that were manifesting in my emotion. What was the desires of the defects? What were the justifications of the defect? What the defect make me feel? What are the things that it make me do? So I'm going to observe all those details. Also, I'm going to judge them to comprehend they are defects, and we are going to eliminate the defects, all the details. And in the reflective meditation, we are really going to understand why this defect was created, how the defect comes and fed every time, how it managed us, and there, for every detail that we discover, we must ask our Divine Mother to eliminate it. This is the psychological death, and only through this method, only when we can observe our own darkness, we can actually set free the 97% of our essence that is currently trapped within a small portion within each one of the details of our ego. So this is hard work, but it is actually the only work that value the worth do it. That is to reality. Because from there we are going to expand our consciousness. From there we are going to bring light to our interior world. So when we eliminate the defect, the essence that is released will awaken its consciousness and will receive from the Father, which is here, its own objective knowledge, its vocation or its occupation within our microcosm. And if we proceed this way with each one of our defects, our being will begin to integrate in us, because each one of the essences that we are liberating are going to start like integrating to the main 3%, and it's going to be increasing. And by doing this, we will awaken an objective knowledge, which is a knowledge that doesn't pass. It is the wisdom of our consciousness. That knowledge that we rescue from the death of our psychological defects, it's what we can call the knowledge from knowing. Because when we die psychologically and we are releasing the essence, we are, yes, advancing towards wisdom. And when we are being born spiritually, uniting that liberated consciousness with the 3% of essence in the practice of the supersex, and we create the existential bodies of the being that allow us to know the different dimensions of nature we are going to be developing what is known as the knowledge from the being. Those two kinds of knowledge, the knowledge from knowing and the knowledge from the being, are what is called the objective knowledge. And also, when we sacrifice ourselves for humanity, we will consciously integrate ourselves, integrate all that consciousness into the law of love. So, the inner or the objective knowledge is not a matter of theories or reading or about stories. It is something practical that we have to do based on these three factors: the psychological depth, to awaken the 3% and to set free the 97% of essence caught within the ego, the spiritual birth. So we merge by practicing the suprasex with our partner. We are going to merge the liberated essences with the 3% and the sacrifice for humanity by helping the other brothers of humanity to get to know these three factors so they can also achieve their self-realization, so that consciousness that we are merging is awakened in love. Now, something that I want to make clear here is that the creation of the existential bodies of the being is extremely important in this process, since in these bodies is where we are going to integrate the being and the knowledge. By creating these bodies, we will go from being mere puppets of our defects. That is what we are now, constantly embarked on a race and a constant struggle, searching for ways to enhance the personality. Round that will inevitably lead us to the grave, to be or to become 100% conscious beings, immortal beings with full consciousness and wisdom in the 7 dimensions of nature. Since we all have 7 consciousness, and these consciousness are in embryo within our sexual creative energy, and when we learn to create ourselves through the sexual transmutation, we develop each one of those consciousness. So with our solar physical body, when we get to have a solar physical body, we get to really know this 3rd dimension, to really know it. With the solar vital body, we will know the 4th dimension, there the Jinn paradises. With the astral body, the solar astral body, we will know the world of the atoms. Now, with the solar astral body, we will know the 5th dimension and the stars and the planets. And with the solar mental body, we know the world of the atoms, and we'll be able to extract the wisdom from them. And with the body of the wheel, or the causal body, we will know the electronic worlds, or the planets of the Christ. There we will know what has been, what is, and what will be. Because there we find the Akashic records of nature. And with the bodic body, we will know the electromagnetic worlds. There we are going to know what the true happiness is. And with the atmic body, we will submerge ourselves in the ocean of light. You know that the Greeks taught that one had to first know oneself in order to know the universe and the gods. And without these 7 bodies, or this objective knowledge, it is impossible to begin to know the universe and the gods. So the objective knowledge allows us to know what is real, what is the purpose of our existence, what is the role in the universe that each one of us has, or that our being has. It allows us to get to merge with that divine part in us, which is our inner being. So it is important to understand that we cannot continue to settle for just repeating what others say. We must start checking and practicing to gradually acquire our own knowledge, which is the knowledge of our being. And when you start teaching this knowledge to other people, you don't just teach to the dead letter, because when you do so, when you don't practice the knowledge and you just start teaching it, you are what you are saying is actually a lie, because you're just repeating what others say, but that is not a truth within yourself. But when we practice this knowledge and you just don't settle for repeating what the master stuff, because you are making that knowledge a truth in you, there you are acquiring your own knowledge, and there when you teach the knowledge, you are going to talk about your own knowledge, the knowledge of your being, which is like the real thing, like the important thing. So, well, this has been today's lecture. I hope that this topic will help you to reflect on the importance of filtering the type of knowledge that you are acquiring and that you are accumulating within yourself, and the knowledge that you are actually seeking, and to know, to reflect where the knowledge that you are receiving it's really leading you to. So this has been today's lecture. As always, I want to invite you to our next lecture that we are going to broadcast in next Sunday at the same time. That lecture will be the lecture number 43, various types of lustful selves. And this is a very important lecture. In this, we are going to talk about different details that make up our lust and how to work on them to achieve the true chastity. So don't miss that important lecture. And thank you very much to all who connect to this video. And see you next time. Ciao, ciao.